All right, here we are for episode 29.
Good job, Bill. That's so great.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Thought we were already on 30.
You did, but Dirty 30's coming up.
Dirty 30.
Next.
All right.
What's 40?
I don't know. Lordy.
Oh, look who's 40.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I'm
That's
knocking.
you.
It is. That's what I'm knocking on.
That's you.
Hey, Phil, I'm really excited today. We got amazing guests, and I am biased about this. I know, because one of them is my lead trainer at Triumph Fitness, Angela Mitchell, and her son, Josh.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you. I called you Josh Mitchell.
You
We had to work.
nervous?
Yeah, no. Well, we
Hey,
had to work out
nervous?
this morning, and he really worked me hard because I try to beat him. But
You did.
oh, I did
For the record.
For the
record.
well, I'm
with
glad
an
you
asterisk
said it.
next
It's
to
on.
it.
It's recorded now.
Recorded now, Josh.
We'll never hear the end of this.
Nope.
I can't wait till you come back to the workout.
No, you play stupid music.
It's my funeral songs.
I ain't about it.
Anyways, their story is impeccable, and I just wanted them to share. And Josh, I mean, what he's really triumphed through, and what he's doing now is just, I'm in disbelief. So, Josh, I'm gonna kind of turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, and it's a family story. So, what's going to be interesting about this is to hear both from the son, and if I can get Angela to open up a little bit about this.
I'm a book. I'm an open book.
Oh, she is. All right. Over to you, Josh.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll pass it along to you at some points too. But
Go ahead.
I think a lot of people that maybe listen to this, or I mean, that just go about their daily lives, they don't have a great childhood growing up. There's always something that displaces people, and whether it was somebody's fault or not, I mean, I've experienced that in my own life as well. And I guess just going through, especially, our household situation got a little more strenuous as the years went on. And as I went through high school, it kind of peaked to a moment of breakage. So we had to really adjust to that and grow through that. So, I mean, some things that really helped me get through that was somebody like my mother, who's such a strong person. I would not be here without her. I would not have the confidence I have without her, because she went through a lot, not only before I could remember what really happened in our household, but she was there for us for whatever we needed in that time where our family kind of shattered apart. Do you want to add anything on to that bit before I continue?
I can't speak as eloquently as you can.
I often wonder where Josh came from, because that is not you.
No, it's not.
Like, Josh is just this amazing. Not that you're not amazing.
No, I get it. I strive to be like him every day. I do agree. Things that happen in your childhood do shape you. And I've had other issues when I was younger, as my mom passed away when I was 11. She had breast cancer. And whereas I could have taken it and said, poor pitiful me, I don't have my mom. Yes, she missed the most important years of my life, all my high school years, the birth of my children. But I took it in another direction. I do not like people to feel sorry for me, because life goes on. The world does not revolve around you. I preach that all the time to my children. Bad things happen, difficult things, but it's here so we can learn from it. Things happen to us because we need to learn to grow and to be better. And that's what I try to portray onto all of them. And in the hopes that they take that away and just become better individuals.
So, Angela, you got married young, and you got pregnant real quick. Do you want to talk on that a little bit real quick? And Josh was your first.
Yes. So, like I said, went through, my mom passed away. My dad got remarried. It was me and my brother. And then we gained a stepbrother, stepsister. We're all very close in age. Went through the normal teenage years where you just kind of stay to yourself in your room, all that. So I was kind of sheltered in a way. So I had this dream of all my family was married for a really long time. So that's what I wanted. I wanted that 60+ year relationship. And being naive, when I met his father, my ex-husband, that's what I wanted. So I overlooked a lot of the red flags. There was a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of controlling. But being me, I wanted that, I guess you would call it a fairy tale relationship. So I ended up getting pregnant before we got married. It was an ultimatum by my dad. He was like, you're not leaving this house till you're married. So there we go. Bam, I got married. We got married January 22nd of 1998. No, not 1998. 2000. He was born in April 27th of 2000. So he was the first child, a eye opener, because I'm not a morning person, and he was up at 6 a.m. every morning. I was just like, I can't go through this. And then I ended up 16 short months later having his brother, and they look like twins. So, and they look so much like me. I mean, come on, they're my spitting image. But it was rough. I did work.
How old were you?
I had him at 19. And so my driving force behind that was I wanted to work. I wanted a family, because what if I didn't make it to 40? So my mom passed away when she was 39. And so that's always been like a benchmark for me of what if I don't make it? I want to be there for them through their most important years. So that really was a driving force behind a lot of my decisions. And college wasn't for me. I thought I wanted to go into one field. Thank God I didn't, because now I'm in a whole nother field. But that's a whole nother story for another podcast.
See why we get along so well?
So I had the two boys, and then we ended up buying a house, and then I got pregnant for my daughter, and we were supposed to stop at number 3, and then whoops, here comes number 4.
Goodness.
So yeah, so I have 4. I birthed 4. He was probably my middle child. So he was 8.5 when he was born. His brother was 9.5. He was my heaviest. His sister was 9.2, and Dill, my youngest, was 7.14. Poor thing. I thought I was going to break him every time I touched him. What else? It was a whirlwind. I worked some, but then sometimes I didn't work. But we did all the things. We did school. We did sports. What else? Keep going. Yeah, we were always going. And go ahead. What?
So talk about like his dad, like when they were younger, what was going on there?
So okay, so and in every relationship you have good and bad times. But his dad did have the very big controlling, very jealous side to him, to where like if I even told someone on the street hi, that was a big issue. So I always had to walk on eggshells and tiptoe to make peace. And for me, sometimes people don't think this, but I'm very much of let's just keep the peace. I will sacrifice. I will step back. I can be a leader, but I will step back when I need to if it means that there will be peace in the house, because I don't like to live in turmoil, because it changes me as a person, and that's not something that I like to do. So we've had some pretty rough moments. The bad times started outweighing the good. Their dad eventually at one point worked offshore, so that did help, because he would work 3 weeks on and 3 weeks off. So we would get that break. I remember feeling just stuck, like this is the rest of my life, because there was a lot of threats. You leave me, I will kill you, I'll kill myself, and the kids will have nobody. And knowing him, I didn't want to push that button, because I knew once I pushed it and opened that can of worms, there was no going back. I also, let's see, I think Johnny, his brother, was young. I was working at a credit union, went into work one morning, and this lady, everybody was crying. And when I found out what happened, this lady, her and her husband split. She went to the house with her son to get something. The husband was there, told the son, go take a shower, do what you got to do, everything will be fine. Son comes out, he stabbed and killed her, and then tried to kill himself. So that always stuck in the back of my mind of, my kids need me. What if I do this? No, I need to sacrifice for them so I can be here for them.
And Josh, as a kid, like living in that, did you know? Like, did you have? You're very smart, but like, what did that make you feel like? Did you, as a man, as a man?
I've never said that on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. With your dad, did you feel like you had to protect your mom? Like, talk to it from a child's standpoint.
I mean, yeah, from a very young age. I mean, we had, a couple different houses growing up. So I remember different instances in different houses. But from a very young age, my dad fought a lot with my mother. And you'd hear things, being smashed, doors being slammed. Things got a little physical sometimes. And most of it stemmed from drinking, and then the attitude and the jealousy. And at that point in time, when I was that young, it was just me and my younger brother. And so we, stayed in our room. But you can obviously hear those things. So those things stay in your mind. They don't go away.
Yeah.
And it's happened throughout my entire life. We've had instances with all 3 of my other siblings where that happens, and you have to go take them to another room and watch them cry because of what's going on, because they don't know what's going on because they're young. And you just have to kind of block that out as much as you can, and also worry about, someone you love, like my mother. So that's definitely been there throughout my entire life. I remember one instance where my mom had to leave the house I think you went to maybe Uncle Lee's house for a race, and then you came back from the race and he was upset with you. So she had to come in my room because he didn't want her in the house. So I had to kind of keep her in my room for a little bit, just so she could, feel safe at some place, So I've definitely been through that. And it kind of came, I guess I'll continue, kind of came to a breaking point one day. I mean, you talked about the story of the lady that you worked with and her husband, and how she was killed. And that I thought happened at first. So we came home, just tell the story really quickly, came home from school, and I was home by myself because I drove at that time. And my mom comes home with my other siblings, and my dad and her start fighting. Like, that was happening a lot at that time. And eventually it built up to the point where it got really physical. And at that time in that house, my room was right next to the outside porch that we had. So they were out there and I could hear everything clear as day. And one thing kind of led to another. And eventually the fighting ended up stopping. And I heard a gunshot outside. And my mind assumed the absolute worst. So in that moment, I was with my siblings. And I had to make the decision, that enough is enough. And so I had to call the police because I didn't know if she was okay, if she was not okay, or what was going on, but I'd had enough of it. And so, 10 minutes later, police breaking down the door to get in, and K9 dogs coming in, and like just all kind of madness going on. And thank goodness my mother was safe and alive. But that was that breaking point that I talked about, because after that, our lives, at least mine, was never the same.
Oh, it's gotten way better.
Yeah,
it was rough in the beginning, but it got way better.
I've never looked back. And that's kind of been where my story, I guess, kind of starts like as an adult, because from that moment where we had to leave our house and we had to rely on family members and we had to rely on friends to be there for us, to house us, to take care of us. That was my moment where I was like, I have to make it. I have to make my life happen because I have nothing to hold on to. I just have myself and everything that God has blessed me with. And I believed in myself because I have someone like my mom who believes so much in me. And I was able to propel off of the momentum that she gave me and all the people around me just to be where I am right now, sitting in this room. And it's just because of that one moment where I was pushed to my limit and I had to make a decision. Am I going to sit back and let this control my life? Am I going to let it rule my life? Or am I going to take my life into my own hands and protect the people that I care about, my mom, my siblings, and myself, of course. And that's kind of where we are now.
And valedictorian of his high school class through all of this, Josh.
Yeah, it was not easy, especially going home to that situation. I mean, it made it really hard. And it wasn't always like that, 24/7, obviously. But those moments where it did happen, maybe once or twice a week where you see things or you hear things, that really puts a damper on your spirit.
It's stressful.
It is. It is. But I can honestly say that I was surrounded by such a great community, not only at school, but like I continue to bring back to my mom. And I mean, another thing that I just wanted to mention was music has also been another source of inspiration to me. I think music is powerful.
Mariah.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring that up. I mean, everybody that knows me really well knows that I love Mariah Carey. And not only do I love her because she writes her own material, and obviously she has a gifted voice, but she had nothing when she started out, and she lived in a studio apartment in New York, and she didn't have money to eat every day. She begged at one point at her job for, the leftovers to eat. And, in a whirlwind situation, she was signed on to Columbia Records, and she, was the lead artist of the 90s because of her gift and her belief in herself. She got through her situation because she believed in herself, and she believed everything that God gave to her. And so, my early days of college, when I was on my own for the first time in a dorm, living by myself, paying for all my food and working, I really resonated with Mariah Carey a lot just because of what she's gone through. And that's that. I'd like to thank that time in my life for making me successful to where I am now as a salaried manager. And now I'm able to support myself, buy my own things.
Going to school to be a lawyer.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. So,
and while he was in the dorm, he was showing up to Zoom classes for Triumph Fitness, like just very disciplined, knowing that all of this was going on in the back end. It was just crazy. So proud of you.
Thank you. And I mean, if you don't mind me saying, Triumph has also been another facet of my life. Free advertisement for the podcast. Check it out.
Love it.
But I mean, after I left high school, there's no sports that continue if you don't sign up for college or whatnot. So I was, I wanted to continue being active. I ran cross country in high school. And I just couldn't find my own routine in college. Freelancing at the gym, like it just didn't work out for me. And so I really wanted not only a place that, I can just go and work out, but, places that I can be mentored and taught and, have a community. And so my mom, like she does most things, kind of pushes me into things because she knows it's going to be good for me, I guess. And so I ended up at Triumph and I'm still here and I love it. I mean, I know so many people that work out here and it keeps me where I want to be. I mean, I'm very happy with the fitness side and then the mental side as well from what it all brings to me.
So let's back up a little bit. That night, is that the same night that you were working? You were a member here, Angela.
I was.
And
yes.
You and I were heavy into these conversations of, do I leave? Do I not leave?
It was a time coming. So that was January, I think 13th of 2018. But before that, so my husband, he had a lot of addiction issues. And this stems back from childhood. And we had many talks. You can't change it. You need to make it. You need to be a better person. Well, he worked offshore and then he got laid off during that oil crisis. And that's when it really went downhill. He ended up going back to drinking and he got in a really bad accident November 6th of 2017. He flipped his truck. He left in the middle of the night, took a couple of Ambien before he left and fell asleep, flipped his truck. He really should have probably died at that point, but he didn't. Single car accident. And from there, he got hooked to opioids and the arguments just started spiraling that way. And I remember that there was a time he must have taken uppers and downers like crazy. He almost set the house on fire, like put the metal dog bowl on the stove, saying he was cooking food for the dog. Thank God Johnny was home. He would stand there, like he would sit in the chair and he just started dozing off and then sitting up. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. So New Year's Eve, going into 2018, we went to my cousin's house. And he came with us, which I was just like, I just wish he would have stayed home, but whatever. So on the way back, one of my big things was don't smoke in my car. And he was a smoker. And did he listen? No. And the kids are in the back seat. So I'm like fuming, I'm driving. And I made the decision at that point. I'm like, I will not live another year like this. This has been a year from hell and I can't do this anymore. So a couple days later, I was working for a temp agency in the accounting department. I was doing taxes and we're just working like 12, 14 hours a day. And by the time I'd get home, he would take whatever and he'd be knocked out for the night. So this was a Monday. No, I'm sorry. It was a Sunday night. He called, where you at? Because he was sleeping. That was after y'all core retreat. That's when I told him. Went to the core retreat for them for school. Came home. I said, here's some money. Take your brother, take your sister. I've got to go to work. Johnny was going with the girlfriend or whatever. They went out. Because he was passed out on the couch, like literally dead to the world. So he called me later that night. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm working. And he's like, no, you're not. I said, look, I'm done. I'm finding a place for me and the kids. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Monday, all day, he begged me on the phone, called me constantly at work. And I just stuck my ground. My thing is I will give you so many chances to fix your behavior, especially if I have a problem. And I'm not a nitpicker. So when I mention something, it's very serious. And when I'm done and I know that I've done everything that I could do to fix it, and I tell you I'm done, that's it. There's no turning back. So got home that Monday night, he was sleeping. Well, the Tuesday, that was the snow. I remember because we all got off of work early. He called me at work. And was like, one more chance. I'm like, no, what don't you understand? I'm done. I'm tired. And he's like, fine, I'm just going to go kill myself. And that was a very normal statement. So I said, fine, I don't even want to hear it. And I hung up. Do what you got to do. Nobody was home. And I just kept saying, if he does it, please let me get home before the kids because it's not fair to them to have to find him. Well, he calls me back like 5 minutes later. You see what you made me do? I shot myself in the leg. I said, oh, really? Why don't you send me a picture? And he's like, okay, I'm going to send it. No, wait, no, you're just going to hold it against me. And I'm like, whatever. You didn't do anything. You're not even in agonizing pain, whatever. So he hung up on me. Well, by the time I got home, my aunt picked up the little kids, hit the mic. See, my hands are going crazy. I got home and he met me at the door. Josh was already home. Johnny picked up a shift to go to work.
Right.
Thank goodness, like God works in mysterious ways. Thank goodness he did. Soon as I got through the door, he met me at the front door and he just started. So we walked to the kitchen. He had the chair in the middle of the floor and I was leaning up against the sink and he was just like, one more chance. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. And it's like witnessing like a 5-year-old's temper tantrum. So finally, when he realized I wasn't giving in, he was like, fine, I see how you're going to be. So he got up, he walked to our room. And when he came back, he had the shotgun in his hand and he walked straight out the back door and he shot the gun. And then I was like, this isn't good. I can hear neighbors screaming and he comes back in and his words, and this was what I knew he meant business. And I knew the shit hit the fan. Sorry for your podcasters. I just had to say it. So he looks at me dead in the eye and he says, and if you think you're getting up in the morning to go work out, you're wrong because you're going to be dead. And I was like, it's time to go. So in a span of 5 minutes, I was like, how can I get 4 kids and 2 dogs in the car quietly? Because this is not going to end well. So he went back outside to go smoke. I said, let me go check on the kids. So I opened the door. 2 are in the bed. They're crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a mess. He shows me the phone and I'm like, oh, 911's on the phone. So now I'm like, this has just gotten from bad to worse. So I hear him coming through the back door and I'm like, I got to get out of this room because if he knows he's on the phone with 911, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. So I'm walking back and I'm thinking, please don't come with sirens. Please don't come with any noise because I can see me ended up dead or in the hospital. So as I come out the room, he's right behind me and he's so close behind me. I really thought he was going to punch me in the back of the head. That's how close he was. So we go back in the kitchen and we're back at it again. And I'm like, nope, no more chances. Nope. And I think it was 5 minutes. Josh says it was longer, but when you're in the moment, it seems like it was quick. I heard a noise outside and I was like, I don't remember leaving the dogs outside. I don't think they were there, but that's what it sounded like. And then he's sitting in the chair and he turns to look and it was like slow motion. And then SWAT team just comes through my back door. And I was like, holy crap. They throw me in the living room. They detain him in the kitchen and they are literally searching the room, all the house. And I was like, don't go in my kids' room. I have dogs. Don't shoot my dogs because they were barking. They don't like people with hats. Like I was worried it was going to really be a fiasco. So, by the time they finish searching rooms, they come and they're like, okay, is anybody else in the house? No. Well, what about the shotgun holes in your wall? And I'm like, what? And then Josh like, my mom doesn't know. And I was like, what are you talking about? So apparently when Josh got home, he took him and said, see what your mom made me do or something like that and showed you, he literally shot a hole in the wall. And that was when he claimed he shot himself in the leg. He shot a hole in my wall. And I was like, are you serious?
Who's going to fix that?
Well, so from there, I knew we could not stay there because he was the type of person that we really had to go into somewhat of a hiding because he was certifiably crazy. I still say he was bipolar, undiagnosed, but he had a lot of things going on up there that he really needed help. So they gave me the choice of either sending him to jail for 72 hours or bringing him to the mental institution. I said, well, jail's not going to help him. Bring him to the mental institution. He needs help. So did that. Then I was like, okay, well, then I got a little peace for a few days. Well, later that night he calls me and I'm like, what are you doing calling me? You're not supposed to have a phone. So long story short, in 2 weeks, we cleaned out our entire house. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, 4 kids and 2 dogs. We did go into hiding for a little while and he ended up in rehab quite a few times. And almost, 2 years now? He was found passed away from an overdose in his truck. So it's a sad situation for somebody that did have potential and had a support system, but just didn't understand what he needed to do to get the help or to put in the work to really tackle the demons he had. Because you have to face them. You can talk about it
We've
all
talked
you want.
about addiction a number of times.
And I'll never understand it because I've never been through it.
That's how I am.
But had he come to me and the situation was reversed and you said, hey, it's either me and the kids or your addiction, I would give it up. I mean, again, I've never been there, so I don't know. You don't know till you're in somebody else's shoes. And I've said this to somebody multiple times. Same with abuse. You never know until you're in somebody's shoes what you would do because there's so many factors that play into the situation. I tried to keep it not physical because I wouldn't push. Towards the end, it got very physical because I was just done. And I was like, you know what? It is what it is. But you just don't know. But you have to take things like this, whoever you are, if you're on the receiving end or if you're the child, you have to take it and you have to grow from it. And you have to realize, I don't want to be this person because they have half of him. And so they have half of his tendencies, half of everything. And so for them, it's harder because they have to work at not going down that same path.
Yep.
And I mean, just to comment on that, there was a couple things in there that I guess my mind blocked out because I don't remember some of those things. So, I mean, I know I was still young. I was 17 at the time when that happened. And I'm sure my mind did block out, throughout my years growing up and seeing all of that, that I blocked out a lot of that just because it was better to do that than to have rent in my head someplace. So I'm sure a lot of people do that. And that's okay for that to happen. Yeah.
I don't think it matters what age you are with trauma.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
That's common. A lot of everything, because I know there's some things even with Grayson, Brett will say, oh, this happened. And I'm like, no, it didn't. I mean, I'm not going to say how old I was, but I was very old. No, I think that trauma, I think our minds automatically put stuff in a box because we have to.
Yep.
Like you have to go on. Like Angela, the thing that I respect about Angela over and over, like while she was dealing with all of this, you would have never known. Like she showed up for workouts. When it got bad and she had to go in hiding, she said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. But she never missed a workout. She was right there at work every single day. Like you would have never known.
Same thing with Josh.
Same thing with
Grades
Josh.
are there.
Yeah. And I mean, Johnny's
he's a Marine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. The right branch, a Marine.
God, they get so testy on that. But and then Dylan's still in high school, and Bailey's working, doing her thing,
living her best life.
So like these kids from talk a little bit about Josh when Angela says you have half, like addiction runs in my family and mental health runs in my family. And I oftentimes battle that because I do understand it and it's hard as a kid. So from your end, talk about like, do tendencies come up and you're like, oh, whoops. Like that comes from my dad.
I will say before I get to that topic, the half of me statement kind of resonated because after I started college and things kind of settled down, I tried to at least reconnect with my dad a little bit. He ended up getting his own place and he got a truck and he was kind of starting his life over, I guess, for himself. And so he kept reaching out to me, I guess trying to just get one little bite out of me. And so I gave him a few chances just because, that's my dad. And I wasn't ready to cut that off in my life yet, I guess is the best way to say it. So, we met a few times and unfortunately it wasn't, you could still see those things in him that were the driving factor that caused all of the dominoes to fall down. And so I tried to make things work. And unfortunately, my mom and him went to court for custody because he was trying to get custody of all of us back because we were all under 18. And I had to make a decision whether or not I wanted to, testify for my mother or just let things kind of play out. Because I was told from the lawyer that if I testified, it would help things out a lot more because I'm one of the kids and hearing directly from me would persuade the judge a lot easier. And so in the midst of trying to work with my dad, I had to kind of grow up a little sooner than what I guess could have or should have. And obviously I testified for my mother just because I understood that was the best thing at the time for my siblings because they didn't need to see that in their lives anymore after what happened. And then not too long after that, he passed away and I took about 3 hours to grieve for that. And then I went into work and I carried on with my day. I went in for my shift and I kind of let the peace go from that. But anyways, long story short, getting back to your question about the half of me bit. Sometimes I do see that in me. I mean, especially like with my impatience and my anger. I am a patient person, but in the moment I do get upset and I get, I guess just angry.
I have never seen that side of you, Josh.
I don't get angry working out, but I'm stubborn and I do get angry. But I've just learned how to control it just because, in my mind, it's always, don't be like that. Like, unfortunately, when I see my dad's face in my mind's eye, it's a big no in front of him or a big X, Not saying that there wasn't anything good about him, but the majority or the result of it, no matter, how you get there or whatnot, the result was a negative thing. And so I don't want anything to really do with that. So it kind of makes things hard to talk to his siblings and his side of the family because they don't know what happened. And they think they do sometimes, but
and that's his family at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's another topic. So
yeah, that's a second podcast, second other
she
podcast.
She already invited herself 2 and 3 times.
There you go.
Well, people want to know their side, right? They want to know what happened. Like, they don't want to truly know what really happened. I think a lot of people do that too with trauma and trying to choose sides and stuff like that. But I think I think this is a mental health, like you said. Also domestic violence, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
Like you went through that. Josh saw that. Like, I can't even imagine being put in that spot, And then
Probably all walk around all swole up, but scared.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But, and then, I don't know if y'all are okay sharing this, and we can definitely cut this part out. But when he did pass, y'all couldn't find him. He
was
no
missing
idea.
for 30 days.
Right.
So at that point, I ceased all communications. There was a restraining order. When we went to court for the divorce to be finaled in custody, the judge said, unblock your phone just for the sake of the kids. So did that, but then that went in a whole nother direction because he just couldn't understand the idea. And I mean, I would get text messages, I love you, I'm going to change and this and that. And I wouldn't answer because no. And then he went and got on one of these apps, which I don't think I ever told you, where you fake your phone number. And I mean, I got threats, like it was bad. I got threats he was going to be here when I went to work out. At one point I had him arrested. They took him to jail, but it was threats enough to know that he's crazy and he will do it, and I wouldn't put it past him. So my sister-in-law called me. It was January 30th. And she's like, have you heard from him? He was supposed to go to rehab in, I forgot, somewhere's up north, Franklinton or something. I don't know, someplace. And I said, no. I said, I don't have contact with him. Well, it's been 30 days and he normally answers his phone and it's going to voicemail. And so she's like, I need his social. I need, some information because I need to put out a missing persons report. And I said, okay. So I gave her all the information. So talked to the kids and I said, look, hopefully, everything's okay. Maybe he just got lost. Maybe he didn't have a ride back because he wasn't working. He was getting disability at the time, but as soon as it hit the account, he would spend it like water. So he didn't have a penny to his name. And there was police, like people were texting me, is this your ex-husband? And I'm like, yes. If you see him, let me know so we can call, let everybody know. I had a detective call me and ask questions. So it wasn't until Valentine's Day 2020.
Mm-hmm. No, 2019. It was right before COVID hit.
It was right before I had Avery.
No, 2020. Johnny graduated the Marines.
Oh, right. COVID
2020.
started March of 2020.
Yes.
Never mind.
So February 14, 2020, my sister-in-law called in tears. They found him. He overdosed. He was slumped over. He was in the truck for 30 days, decomposed. And the kicker to all of this was that every day I would pass in front of where his truck was parked because the kids would have to go to school and I'd have to make a U-turn. So it was on the West Bank. And if anybody knows the West Bank, by Jean Blay Cafe, where the old Del Champs used to be, that it's like Save-A-Lot, Budget Saver, I don't know. That's where his truck was parked. And
he was in it?
He was in it. So she called me the 30th. The next day, I stopped at the coffee house right there to get a gift card for the kids' teacher. And he probably was like 10 feet from me and didn't even know because, it's a busy parking lot. I'm not looking for him. So when they found him, he overdosed on fentanyl. And when he finally did pass away, he slumped over. So when he decomposed on his phone. So that's why it kept going to voicemail. I had to give recognizing marks of him because my sister-in-law had no clue because they had no fingerprints. You couldn't tell in the face. Like they had the driver's license and all that. He was living in his truck. It was pretty bad. Yeah. Pretty sad way to go. I mean, regardless of how people live their lives, I think it's still sad to have to die alone. Yeah. And I just hope he did find some peace wherever he's at now, because he was not at peace. He had a lot of things going on that he just couldn't deal with. He couldn't come to terms with, and he couldn't accept, and he kept pushing it down with the addiction, with everything. I mean, he had every addiction. It was drugs, it was smoking, it was spending money. And I'm like, I mean, seriously, like pick one, not everything. Yeah. But, I mean, it's still bad. And then the drinking was the worst because it really brought out the horrible side in him. It was not pretty. Mm-mm.
So let's talk about the triumphing part, because I think that's the most important part of this story of y'all's, especially with Josh, valedictorian, going to law school, salary manager, like just all the epitome of what a perfect son is Josh. So tell us a little bit about, you talked about how this helped you be that person. But tell us what you're doing these days and how you're making it count from that horrible situation.
So sure. To start off with, currently, I just graduated undergraduate at University of Holy Cross. So I finished my first degree, and I've been with Canes since I was 16. So the whole time all this was going on, I was still a crew member at Raising Canes. And now I'm a salaried operations manager there. So I kind of run the store that I'm at. And I have a lot more of a leadership position there. So that takes up the majority of my time. Hoping to go to law school later this year in the fall. That's the plan. But yeah, I honestly, it sounds like a lot whenever you highlight it, and it sounds so great, but in the moment, it's just been kind of me going with it, trusting not only, not trusting God, trusting him, and then trusting, people around me to support me where I need them, and, motivationally and all that stuff. It's just helped me just take one step at a time, and it's all come one step at a time. So I've just said yes, and that continuous yes has kind of brought me here.
And let's talk a little bit about your faith is just unwavering and I know when you came to Try and Finish, you were doing a sugar detox. But it was tied. Do you remember
90-day exodus.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But you're very strong in your faith. Let's talk a little bit about that helping you through these times.
Just to be blatantly clear, my faith has been the one true thing that has helped me through all of this. So I went to Archbishop Shaw for high school, and before I started there, I had no faith in my life, and I really was raised with not much formal faith at all. And throughout those years at high school, from interactions with the priests and the brothers on campus and other students with me, I became...
Man, those Salesians get you.
The Salesians, that's
they
right.
They get you, Josh.
They will come get you.
They send you to that core retreat, and that's it.
Right.
Did you go to New York, too?
I went to New York three times. No, three times. 3 times.
Okay, well, I went once. So just saying.
I didn't go any.
It really changes your life.
No, it does. Just the experiences, they just show you that there's so much more to hope for than what's in front of you. And that's what I think really helps me. You always have, at least in my eye, I always have someone that I can talk to that knows me, that's, made me, that has blessed me with everything around me. And I guess the one message I really wanted to part with the listeners today is that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you have, God has given you everything you need in this moment to be where you want to be. So if you look around you, you look at your situation and you look at what you have and what you don't have, you have exactly what's required to get you to where you think that God is calling you to be. And I really do believe that's what I think has gotten me through all these situations that we talked about, because like we said, we literally had nothing at one point, and we had to, rely on the little bit that we had and all the grace that God had for us. And now we're here.
Yeah.
Talking at the podcast.
You made it big.
Making it count.
They'll be waiting for autographs later.
I always think that Josh is my child, because he's just so amazing. And Angela, what are you doing now that's making it count?
What am I not doing?
What are you not doing?
And that's pretty much the motto of my life, because I was held back for so long. And you're talking an 18-year marriage that anytime I showed any passion for anything, I was always given grief. And because I was happy. And so, and it was even down to like volunteering at the kids' school. Why are you doing that? Why other people don't do that? I'm like, seriously, it's your children too. Whatever. So, I want to do all the things. And Jen's like, how many more things you're going to get involved in? But
we're like a marriage. It's just me and her married. The Golden Girls.
I have, let's see, where should I go? We made it on our own. A year in the apartment. I worked like a dog, 60 hours, but hey, we did it because I said this in the beginning. I don't like sympathy. I don't like depending on people. It's probably a weakness of mine. I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness, probably somewhere in between. And so I'm going to make it happen because that's what I do. And my kids are my responsibility, not anybody else's. So we went through some trials and tribulations there. I reconnected with someone that we partially dated when I was like 17. So he came back in the picture, and we've been together for 4 years. He has 4 kids. I have 4 kids. We have a whole big happy family. The Brady Bunch 2.0. But it's been loads of fun. Yeah, we moved in 2019. We're still on the wank. What else? Let's see. I went back to college at 40. I love accounting. I'm kicking myself in the butt right now with classes, but going for accounting, CPA. I want to sit for the exam. I did take the notary exam once. I missed it by 1%, so I'll be back for that in the spring, hopefully. What else? What else am I doing? I work here at Triumph.
Yeah. I was going to say like your main job here.
This is probably like one of the most important things that I'm doing in my life because I can pay it forward to others. Triumph was here for me even at my lowest point, just to be a relief from everyday life. This is my stress reliever. And if I don't work out, God help everybody. But this really did help me to reset and really just try to get through each day. And it helped me realize that I can do things that I thought I could never do in my life, like workout wise, physical and other aspects. But I had a lot of aha moments, and I still do. So I like passing that forward to people when they come and they're like, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, first off, we don't say that word here. I said that this morning to Candace. I can't do Beatles. Yes, you can. But I like to work with people, meet them where they're at, and then show them what their potential is down the road. Like Jessica did a box jump today. Yes.
I'll let her blow out another knee.
No, she is not. No, she's not. She made it through her first HIIT workout, but I like seeing that when I can help someone else, it makes me feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. So
I think it's pretty cool that, especially for you, Josh, that, throughout the teenage years suck, for a lot of people. I mean, they're great times, but for you, through all that darkness and stress, and you were just the whole time I'll be all right. It's not a lot of people your age that are going through that age that have that outlook.
Yeah. I definitely thank my mom for that. I mean, she's talked about that quality that she has in her. And I think that's why I'm like that, just because of seeing her. If she can go through it, dealing with that firsthand, and me just watching, I think I can go through it myself.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say, though, is seeing everything turn out so well for my mom from an outside perspective, because I was on my own and in college at the time, living in the dorm, so I wasn't living with them. So I saw all of this kind of unfold and happen. I really see everything as coming full circle. In terms of a family, it's literally a 0 to 100% difference, just because things are, the way that things work out, or what you expect maybe like off of a TV show or magazine, at least from what I see. I mean, things work out so well between not only just them two, but his kids and then me and my siblings. I mean, I'm kind of astounded when I think of how all this has happened. Mm-hmm. And I can't stop and think and, thank God for it, because I really think that he meant for that to happen for not only my mom, but us four as well, to go through all of that and then have a complete flip and then see what it should be like maybe. And then to more importantly, appreciate it and to be really thankful for it, because we've seen what it, can turn out to be.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. I know I kind of nudged both of y'all a little bit into this.
Nudge.
That's a polite way to put it.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. Y'all are very strong people with lots of just wisdom and just knowledge. So thank y'all both so much for coming on the Make It Count podcast.
Episode what?
29.
29.
All right.
29.
29.